We are officially in guys running routes against air season, which can only mean two things. One, Keegan Thompson is triggered on the timeline. And two, Dynasty players' values are changing with each tweet, Aiden. And on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we will be talking through two players who we believe the market is currently overvaluing after the NFL draft and right before OTAs. I'm your host, Shaun Moran, and I'm joined by my co-host, my good friend, and my fellow knower of ball, Aidan Holler. Aidan, how we doing today, man?
I'm doing swell, Shaun. I'm excited to kick off some of our own rookie drafts next week and start putting some of these rookies we've been talking about for the last couple of months into my lineups. We're in some slow drafts this year, so hopefully we see some trades throughout the draft. I'm excited. We're into that like first real phase of the like fantasy football off season where things are actually happening. Like we've been talking since the clock struck zero on the Super Bowl in terms of rookies, but like we're actually into the 2024 season to a degree, and it's exciting, man. How you doing today?
Dude, I'm good. The 49ers are favored to win every single game on their schedule this season. I don't know if you saw that. So you know what that means. Can't wait.
There's
Can't
week
wait
by
to get
week
hurt
lines
again.
out for everything already.
Yeah, week by week lines are out. Look ahead lines. They're favored in every single game for whatever that means. But then you go look at the rest advantage, and they're like playing 5 teams this year off of a bye week. It's like that's so maybe the schedule is easy, but then they take away all the rest. So
where are you guys
see.
in SOS out of curiosity?
Middle of the tier for a team who wins the division. It's middle of the tier.
That's pretty nice.
I think our division's gonna be way better.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks.
What's the division you guys have this like? What's the one division you play everyone in this year?
That's a good question. Let me see. I think the Jets. I think we play the AFC East. Yeah, we play the AFC East.
There you
and
go. We have the AFC South.
Let me see. I'm sure our listeners absolutely love this. I think we have we have the NFC North. So we have the North and the East. We play
nice.
You guys, we play the Lions, the Packers. That's kind of a tough schedule. I don't think the AFC East is quite good, but the NFC
it's not as good as
the NFC North's pretty good.
The North is really good this year. The East is good. It's fine.
But the Jets are coming to us, and I think they're one of the better teams out there. And I think
feels like the Bills aren't as good, but the Jets will be better. The Dolphins.
We have to go to Buffalo in December. That'll be a fun one.
That should be fun. Yeah,
that'll be a fun one.
All right. Well, let's get into it here.
Yeah, let's do it. Before we dive in, 2 things. If you are part of the 70% of people who are watching this video but aren't yet subscribed to the Regression to the Mean podcast, you know what to do. Like this video, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notifications to make sure you aren't missing any of the content that we're dropping weekly on this channel. You guys have been going nuts. Our last video got us like 30 subscribers, which is crazy. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Seriously, it's awesome. And we love to hear from you. So if you've got comments, drop them below in this video. You know what to do. Who are you drafting? Who are you fading? Who do you disagree with? Who do you agree with? We're here. Aiden's answering. I sometimes answer, but sometimes people are mean to me. Sometimes people are mean to me, and I have thin skin, and I'm not okay sometimes with it.
Yeah. No, we love hearing from the mean team. Stay active in there. At the end of the day, we want to help you guys win your leagues. We want to help you guys, do your best in, best ball, dynasty, redraft, all that. So, we're always happy to help where we can.
On our last episode, Aiden, we had 2 players that we were buying. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, it's in our feed. You know what to do. Today, 2 players that are overvalued based off their keep, trade, cut, evaluation, and ranking. You ready to do this?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Why don't you kick things off? It's a little spicy.
Yeah.
It's a little spicy.
This one's a little hotter. I think my buy was easy with Kyler. In our buys episode.
Hey, spoilers.
Spoiler. This is a guy that people love, but I think his value is just way too high. It is none other than Dalton Kincaid, tight end from Buffalo. And I know what you're thinking. Stephon Diggs is gone. Wheels up. This is, weapon number 1 in the offense now.
You're too tight end.
Yeah,
Diggs is gone.
I just don't really see it that way. And so just taking a quick look, like who's around him here in terms of who's ahead of him, who's below him. The two guys ahead of him are Trey McBride, rightfully so, and Brock Bowers, who, probably rightfully so there. Two guys behind him, Kyle Pitts, who I would have ahead of Dalton Kincaid, and TJ Hawkinson, who I still don't know how I feel about with the injury yet, but, probably is right to be behind him, but
I'm out.
Nasty injury. And you look at Dalton Kincaid and you're like, hell yeah, dude. Second year tight end, he's got to be 22 years old. This guy's almost 25 already. This was an old rookie, so like
he is old.
He's not like young young, sure. But like he's not as young as you would think for being a second year player. He's 3 years older than Brock Bowers, is 1 year older than Kyle Pitts.
That's crazy.
For the reasons why like I'm mainly out on Dalton Kincaid. The first one is the main one is Dawson Knox, the other tight end there in Buffalo. He's still under contract for 3 more years. Signed an extension. I think it was last offseason. Is going to be with the team for a couple more years. Very reliable target for Josh Allen. Plus he can block. So you look at those 11 personnel snaps, that's where you want to make your money as a tight end. You want to be on the field as often as possible. And Dalton Kincaid really isn't your inline tight end. He's kind of that slot tight end, maybe playing up on the outside as well. So, 11 personnel, you're probably finding your way to the bench, or you're, just chipping and running routes. Like, you're not asking Dalton Kincaid to block, which, is an issue. You have to run the football. Looking at the stats, though, he was significantly better without Dawson Knox. We know, he went on that run with Dawson Knox out, and you're like, hell yeah, like it's happened. But then he came back, and it was like, damn it, we're back to taking a passenger seat. Like things slowed down quite a bit. So in 13 games with Dawson Knox, these are his per game splits. 5 targets a game, just over 3 catches and 38 yards. Without him, in 5 games, I included the postseason as well there. So he missed 1 game during the season, played 13 games total, including 2 in the postseason. Without him, he averaged 7.4 targets a game, so it's almost 2.5 more. 6.2 catches, it's almost 3 full more catches, and 56.2 yards. So that's almost 25 more yards more.
14 fantasy points per game without Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take that. It's bad with Knox, though.
It's bad with Knox. And sure, like, I think the roles will, like, change a little bit this year, like, especially with Diggs out. Like, you need a weapon like Dalton Kincaid, but Dawson Knox isn't going anywhere. Dawson Knox is going to play a ton. He also didn't score many touchdowns, too. They both had 2 touchdowns last year, and Dalton Kincaid played, significantly more. So it's like you'd like to see him being targeted in, the red zone, big body tight end, more of an offensive weapon. That really wasn't happening. And this isn't me being out on Dalton Kincaid. I think he's going to have a good season. I think that offense is going to be kind of a week-to-week nightmare in terms of the pass catchers. And then you get into the red zone, and it's the Josh Allen show. That's why, like, owning a running back there is kind of a nightmare. Some of the other guys that I would like to have, I would love to go get a pick plus or a player plus, a guy like Evan Ingram, even a guy like Ferguson or Njoku. I would personally just tear down.
Give me Fergie style, baby. Give me Ferg.
But you could also just go like 1 for 1. Some of the other players in his range, are pretty shocking. Again, I'm assuming this is tight end premium as well, scoring wise. Chris Olave, Rome Odunze, Brandon Ayuk, Jonathan Taylor. These are all guys that are either just ahead of him or behind him in rankings. If you truly value Dalton Kincaid this much and you can go get one of those guys, like I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't think his value is ever going to be this high in terms of tight end 4. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's really damn talented. But with Dawson Knox in the mix, I just don't see a world where, he matches and really maintains his value going forward. So, I'll probably scoop him up in some best ball, might redraft him a little bit here or there. But this is not a guy that I'm really, dying to acquire in best ball, for the reasons that we kind of talked about there.
You look at his rookie year, and he was pretty average across the board, across pretty much every underlying statistic, and which average for rookie tight end is good. Like that's good. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Minimum 100 routes. He was 16th in target percentage, 16th in targets per route run, 13th in first read target share, 8th in receptions, 15th in team receiving yard market share, 18th in yards per route run, 8th in percentage of routes run in the slot. These are all really solid for a rookie tight end. Like, he showed that he belonged on an NFL field. It's a tough position to learn. But, man, there's some stuff in his profile that's a little concerning. He was 38th in yak per reception. He was 28th in red zone targets. And he was 37th in ADOT amongst tight ends. It's really hard to hit home on your tight end 4 evaluation if you aren't used down the field, in the red zone, or you can't break tackles. Really what you need is volume. And if you told me that they're going to just play Dalton Kincaid in the slot, and he's going to be their slot receiver, and he's going to get a ton of volume with Josh Allen, hell yeah. I'm in. Tight end 4, sign me up. That's his value. But that wasn't really how they called the offense last year. Yeah. Like, you saw Khalil Shakir plop into the slot. They just brought in Curtis Samuel on a contract. James Cook's involved downfield as a pass catcher. It's kind of like Josh Allen is the heliocentric Luka Doncic or, like, offense where everything revolves around him. And then they just kind of got role players doing their thing. And some guys might have some good weeks, but it's like everything revolves around Josh. And that's kind of how the offense is built. And, like, Stephon Diggs was a non-factor at the end of last year. And I guess Kincaid had some nice weeks towards the end of last year when Dawson Knox was out. So that's positive. But, like, basically, if they're going to plan on running a bunch of 12 personnel and Knox is continuing to, just take Kincaid's lunch as a blocker, and it's going to limit Kincaid's snaps, I don't know how you get there at the tight end 4 evaluation, especially ahead of Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has not been consistent, but if you look at yak per reception, red zone targets, ADOT, it's all been there for Pitts, air yard share, all the underlying stuff is like, this guy should hit home, but it's just been a nightmare because of quarterback efficiency. It's like, I get the idea of betting on quarterback talent with someone like Dalton Kincaid, and I really was high on Kincaid coming out of the draft. But just the usage was bizarre. It was just really low ADOT stuff. We're going to really need to use him down the field. I'm sorry. Like, it's just going to have to happen. And he was good downfield as a receiver out of college too. Yeah. So maybe they were just slow playing it with him as a rookie. Yeah. They were slow playing him as a rookie. And again, Trey McBride had nothing of a first season and was awesome. Like, awesome as a sophomore. A bunch of these guys had baseline solid rookie years and then were great as year 2. And Kincaid's in that baseline solid year 1. So, like, there definitely is a world where he hits home in this evaluation. I just think there's a lot of projection here. And because of that uncertainty and the fact that we feel like he might be a little overvalued at maybe his ceiling, you could go out there and trade him and get a really nice return. Where, like, you could get a mid, like in tight end premium, it looks like you can get a late first rounder for him, or you can potentially trade him for an undervalued running back, undervalued wide receiver, and maybe you can even use some collateral to go get a veteran tight end like Jake Ferguson. Because I think someone like Jake Ferguson, dude, he's like the number 2 in that offense. Like, he's straight up the number 2, wheels up. Like, he's going to block, he's going to catch, he's going to break tackles. He's going to be an amazing type player. And I'm a big fan of Jake Ferguson. He's like the clear-cut number 2 in that offense. So, like, if you told me Dalton Kincaid is the number 1 in that offense next year, I would not be shocked. If you told me he was like a role player who's still 3rd in targets in that offense, I wouldn't be shocked. And because of that, I feel like tight end 4 is too rich for my blood.
Yep. I just don't think there's going to be a true number 1 in that offense. It's like the point, like you made around like Josh Allen being the point guard. Like, it's going to be so week to week. Like, I just don't see a world where he's on the field enough to be like a true alpha, like every single week. There's going to be weeks, of Curtis Samuel. Like, you might even get some James Cook weeks. We're going to get.
I forgot about Keon.
Keon's going to have some weeks, I think.
I'm not that high on Keon.
And then we're going to get like 1 or 2 MVS weeks to make Gabe Davis proud.
Say his
which
name.
Will be fun.
It's going to be Khalil Shakir season. All right. Don't hate on my boy.
Say
year
his
3 year 3 breakout Khalil Shakir has never been more alive.
Yeah.
I won't give up the dream for Shakir.
The price is just too high here, man. The price is too high.
Tell me tight end 5 ahead of Pitts. Come on, man. I'm sorry. Come on.
He can't be ahead of Pitts. Like, Pitts has done it already. Pitts has done it. And his situation got significantly better this offseason. Like, he probably belongs
maybe just right behind Pitts. Like,
I don't know. Yeah. I can't really tell you to go get Hawkinson ahead of Kincaid because That wouldn't make sense.
But the ceiling is there to the point where, like, I close my eyes and you're like, end of next year, Dalton Kincaid is like playing the Zach Ertz role to Josh
For
Allen.
sure.
I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. And if he's doing that, I'm like, yeah, I can see tight end 4. Shit, I can see tight end 3, like, easily.
Yeah.
But then if you tell me that he's still just like in this timeshare with Dawson Knox, man, like,
Fuck that, dude.
Oh,
give me Ingram, give me Ferg plus, dude. Like, it's just.
And they sign up Dawson Knox like a 3-year deal, so it's not like
Knox it was a 3-year extension. He's not going anywhere.
It's not like Knox is in the last year of his deal, right? And it's like, okay, we just hold tight. And it's not like it's Zach
3
Ertz.
more years. He's 3 more years.
It's not like ACL Zach Ertz, who's just a complete dustball in front of Trey McBride. It's like a legitimate guy in front of.
Knox has had like massive weeks over the last 2 years.
He's had
like,
big touchdown guy, and it's like
so like that plays into it. Like Josh Allen trusts Dawson Knox. Like that's
they're boys. They go
that's
to
a dude in that
together.
offense. Yeah,
they're boys.
No, he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Their contracts end at the same time.
They're probably like the same age.
Probably, yeah. To be honest, yeah.
Man, oh jeez, yeah, that's a nightmare, dude. Like
nightmare.
I close my eyes and see both, and it's like tight end 4 seems a little like he's getting priced in at his ceiling, honestly. Moving on to our next guy, and this guy was actually a buy. You bought him in January. I was pretty in on him. He's the running back 20 on Keep Trade Cut. He is falling. He's sinking like a rock. I think he was like running back 15 6 weeks ago. That's Javonte Williams, the running back for the Denver Broncos. So again, we were pretty high on him coming out of the season. We were pretty impressed that he played the full year. He got over 200 touches coming off of that catastrophic multi-ligament knee injury. It was super impressive that he played. And he didn't look great, but I thought he gained some respect from Sean Payton. He was a professional, handled his rehab, played in every game. I don't think he had an amazing role per se because, Sean Payton's always sprinkling other backs in. It's Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin. But from week 9 on last year, Aidan, Javonte had the 14th most valuable role in terms of expected fantasy points in fantasy. So it was a good role. Like I thought the buy was pretty solid. However, the vibes aren't that great. The vibes are not that
great right
now.
The
vibes are not that great for Javonte Williams. And normally I try and avoid Coach Speak, but the Coach Speak Index had a video of Sean Payton. If you don't follow Coach Speak Index, you know what to do. It's a fantastic account on Twitter. Essentially, a guy audits every single coach's interviews and press conferences, and essentially assesses their reliability, how truthful they are. And Sean Payton's a pretty truthful dude, and he seems pretty adamant that there's going to be a training camp open competition for the running back position for the Denver Broncos. And he doesn't really seem that enamored with Javonte Williams. He didn't really talk about him much. And beat reporters are saying that they're a little disappointed in Javonte Williams. He's been injured a ton, and he just hasn't lived up to expectations. And Denver adds Audric Estime in the draft. They bring in Blake Watson. They've undrafted rookie free agent Jaleel McLaughlin, or is he a 6th rounder? I don't know. Like under the radar guy who played really well.
Yeah.
They brought in Samaje Perine. It was one of Sean Payton's first things he did. All Sean Payton has done is bring in running backs to compete with Javonte Williams. So it's like, oh gosh,
you don't do that if you're sold on a guy. Like you don't do that. Yeah,
it's like the opposite of Zamir White. We're heading into the draft. It's like, all right, whatever, Zamir White. Like, wow, they added Alexander Madison and then drafted a guy in the 6th round. That's it. Like Zamir White, and they let Josh Jacobs go. You're like, that's an indication that they like Zamir White.
They like him.
This is kind of an indication that they don't really like Javonte Williams.
Correct.
And I'm not necessarily saying that Javonte Williams is worse than Jaleel McLaughlin or rookie sleeper Audric Estime, who I really like, or this promising undrafted guy in Blake Watson. I think he's better than Samaje Perine. I think that's fair to say at this point. But what I'm saying
Blake
is
Watson?
No. Javonte Williams is better than Samaje Perine. I'll give him that. But considering that Williams is in year 4, his head coach is not backing him up, and the fact that this backfield is by far and away going to be a committee. At best case scenario, Javonte Williams is the goal line back in this committee. And this is not going to be... This is
pretty damn big, though.
Yeah, and he's, and Sean Payton's talking up Estime as this great early down running back, and then you got Jaleel McLaughlin, who projects as a 3rd down guy, and you squint and you're like, that's a pretty nice rotation they could build out there for cheap. They don't have to pay Javonte. And you start to read the tea leaves, and you're like, oh no, like Javonte Williams is going to be he's going to be a free agent next year, right after year 4. They're probably not going to pay this guy. He'll probably land somewhere else. He's talented. You know, the second round pick, makes guys miss. He's an interesting player. Like, he could definitely come back from this knee injury and be good. But you're in a position here where I think he's being valued as an RB2 clearly in Dynasty. And I think the bottom could fall out on Javonte Williams here, like big time, to the point where he's like barely even playable. Because there's a scenario here where he mixes in with all of these guys and then doesn't catch passes and doesn't get used at the goal line on a bad team that's projected for 5.5 wins by Vegas.
Would be a nightmare. Be an absolute nightmare.
So, like, I don't know, dude. His efficiency metrics weren't great. He's bottom 10 in rushing efficiency, rush yards over expected per attempt. He was good at forcing missed tackles, even post knee injury. He created some good explosive plays, so it wasn't all bad. But then Jaleel McLaughlin, like, he finished 5th in missed tackles forced per attempt, 4th in yards per contact per attempt, 15th in success rate, and he had a 2 yards per route run. Did you know Jaleel McLaughlin balled like that for the Broncos last year?
He had a little insanity run. There was definitely a bit of an insanity run with like Jaleel McLaughlin, where everyone was, you know, blowing a little too much fab than they should have on our buddy Jaleel. You know, it was a little.
Don't
silly.
you dare throw dirt on this man's name. Look, what? And everyone knows this. If you listen to this podcast, you know. I'm basically in on just close your eyes and pick a year 2 running back in Dynasty, redraft, doesn't matter. It's like honestly one of the best bets that you can make in fantasy football.
For sure.
And like, I think I'd rather just pay pennies on the dollar for someone like Jaleel McLaughlin instead of paying up for like Javonte. Like in a redraft, in a Dynasty like startup draft, I'm not touching Javonte Williams. And if I had him on my roster, dude, I'd have to get him off. I'd take a 2nd round pick. I'd take a 3rd plus like an undervalued receiver potentially. Like Dontavian Wicks in a 2nd, give it to me every time. Like, I'll take a riskier bet at wide receiver than just have this sinking ship potentially on my roster, because I think there's a point where he can hold his value as RB20. That's probably best case scenario. Maybe he's like back in that RB15, 16 range. Worst case scenario, this guy's like RB40. Like, the bottom just completely falls out.
Go get a 2nd round pick. Go draft Marshawn Lloyd. Go draft Bucky Irving. Like, I feel bad that the vibes were different when we wanted to buy him.
I thought he was great
at the beginning of the year, because he actually did have a good year, but
off of the ACL, you have to caveat everything off the ACL, and that offense was a mess.
Yeah,
I honestly felt like Javonte getting over 200 touches and having the year that he had off of that terrible multi-ligament knee injury was pretty impressive. He didn't miss a game. He was ready for camp. Like, I was ultra impressed. And I think I also thought he was really talented coming out of UNC. So I felt like
they're just telling us that like they don't really want him. You know, we really like Estime. You know, Blake Watson's good. Jaleel McLaughlin's good. Samaje Perine, you know, he's going to get some 3rd down work. It's like,
oh yeah,
there is no longer a role where he's like a bell cow, like, you know, 1st and 2nd down back, like every single drive. Like, and the fact that you can still get a 2nd round pick for him this year, like, man, just go get yourself a new running back. You know, I would, again, go get a 2nd round pick and draft Estime, man. Like, go get his replacement.
You can take Estime in the 4th round.
Yeah, like, dude,
you don't even have to draft someone like Blake Watson, and Jaleel McLaughlin is someone you could trade for like a 3rd.
Yeah.
Like, I like
the vibes are bad. The vibes are bad.
Best case
Sean
scenario.
Payton's telling us.
Best case scenario is the same role he had last year, and he's a little bit more efficient, right? Maybe he scores more touchdowns.
No, I think the room is just more crowded this year. I guess that would be best case, but like all the moves they've made tell us that like that isn't gonna happen.
They're ready. Yeah, they're like, Javonte, you're on the roster this year. You know, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. And maybe it's just Sean Payton being Sean Payton. Like, the dude's just kind of annoying. But
he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's just kind of a dick. Like, he doesn't really care what we think.
You can say it. It's our pod. You can curse.
Yeah.
You can curse.
So we'll see. Maybe it's all smoke, but I don't know why you stack the running back room like this, and openly announce it's an open competition. If you had a guy that you truly believe is like your bell cow guy, like
Yeah, not backing him up at all.
teams aren't doing that. Like the Zamir White one, like you made, it's a great example. It's like they're telling you like we like Zamir White. We're gonna give him a crack at it this year, whereas the Broncos are telling us, Javonte, good luck out there, man. Yeah, like good luck out there, my friend. So we'll see. Yeah, definitely go trade him, man.
Yeah, I don't regret us pumping up Javonte, but
no, he came off a great year and was undervalued. But the offseason moves they've made since.
That's why running backs, bro.
Yeah, it's running backs, man. It's
running backs are scary,
it's Leonardo DiCaprio,
bro.
man, dude.
Scary.
It's
basically
brutal.
If a running back is tied to his coach that drafted him, okay, yeah. But Sean Payton's the second coach. Yeah, dude, I don't know. It's tough. I would try and get off. I try and get off Javonte while I can.
Yeah,
but thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Till next time.